Everybody. Welcome to today's Facebook Live, YouTube Live, and all that. So, I'm going through the different values, and today's value is about love, and I'm going to be sharing about a particular type of meditation called the loving kindness meditation. And so, I'm just going to read a section from Mindfulness for Dummies. You may or may not have a copy, but I will read an extract from the book that I've written, and it's called Generating Compassion, Metta Meditations. So metta, spelled Metta, it is a Buddhist term meaning loving kindness or friendliness. Interestingly, I was researching metta earlier this morning, and actually these loving kindness or metta meditations are pre-Buddhist thinking. The ideas about it were written in the Upanishads, and the Upanishads are considered part of the ancient Indian or Hindu tradition, and that dates back several hundred years even before the Buddha. So that's interesting. Metta meditation is designed to generate a sense of compassion both for yourself and towards others. All mindfulness meditations make use of an affectionate awareness, but metta meditations are specifically designed to deepen the skill and direct it in specific ways. And for some of you that have been following me, you know that I don't teach just mindfulness on its own. I teach a thing that I like to call kindfulness, which is about being aware of the present moment, but with a friendly attitude, a kind attitude, a curious attitude. And the attitude's really, really important. Go on to say many religious traditions and ancient cultures emphasize the need to love and care for yourself and those around you. When you're feeling particularly harsh and self critical, metta meditation can act as an antidote and generate feelings of friendliness and affection. The reason metta meditations work is due to an important aspect of human beings. You can't both feel hatred and friendliness at the same time. By nourishing one, you displace the other. Metta meditation is a gentle way of healing your inner mind and heart from all its pain and suffering. Um, okay, I'll carry on reading. So, the metta meditations and the way that I teach them are a little bit different to the traditional approach. And the reason I've changed it is because us Westerners have much more of a challenge cultivating self compassion and self love compared to how people used to do in the past. In fact, there's a famous story where people were talking to the Dalai Lama and they talked about the self criticism and the self hatred that people have. And it was kind of unheard of in his Tibetan tradition, and they didn't really even have a word for it. So it took him a long time to understand, and he was very surprised that this happened. So it's something that may be a little bit unique to our Western culture. I go on to say, if you're new to meditation, try some of the other meditations in this book first. When you've had some experience of those meditations, you're ready to try out the metta meditations. And just to add a little bit more information to that as well, I remember seeing some research where they first practiced the more traditional mindfulness meditations, mindfulness of breath, mindfulness of body, mindfulness of the senses, and then did the compassion meditations. And they found it to be more effective that way around. And their conclusion was that you need to first, settle your mind down a little bit, have a little bit of more of an ability to concentrate and focus and to be present. And then you'll find these compassion meditations more beneficial. So I thought that was quite interesting. And then in this book, I just kind of go in detail about how to practice loving kindness. I'll just go through it quickly now. You can practice in any posture that you want, but the important thing is you're particularly comfortable, especially in this meditation. You begin by feeling your breath, and then you use certain phrases. And I made a list of the different phrases here. You can maybe have a look there. If you haven't got a copy of this book, it's page 129. But I'll read them out as well. May I be at peace with myself and all other beings. May I accept myself just as I am. May I find forgiveness for the inevitable hurt people bring to one another. May I live in peace and harmony with all beings. May I love myself completely just as I am now, no matter what happens. May I be free from the suffering of fear and anger. May I love myself unconditionally. So these are some potential suggestions of sentences that you can use, but you don't need to use any of them, or you can use all of them, or you can just use one of them. So you can pick and choose which ones that you like, or you can even make up a phrase that works for you. Someone's said, one of my favorite meditations, I love doing metta in class. Wonderful. Um, so the idea is to repeat them softly and repeat the phrases again and again, gently in your mind and heart. And then you can move on to bringing to mind someone you care about, like a good friend, and wishing them well, and then a neutral person. And the traditional way it's done is someone that you don't get on too well with, so a difficult person. So you do yourself, a good friend, a neutral person, a difficult person, and then all of them together. Um, and I still have that in my book actually, but the way I've kind of moved it forward a bit more, like I said, is to focus on trying to cultivate more self compassion. And so what I do is I first of all start by guiding people to experience that metta, that loving kindness with someone who they find it very easy to cultivate compassion for. So it could be a pet, quite often it's a pet. So it's like a dog or a cat, or it could be their favorite plant or a tree, or it could be a member of their family or a friend who for whom it's just very easy for them to cultivate the sense of kindness and compassion. And you bring this person to mind, and then you use these phrases like, may you be well, may you be happy, may you be peaceful, may you live a life of ease. And you start to feel this warmth in your heart, a sense of compassion for them. And you try to build that up as much as you can. And you can just focus on that, and that could be it. Um, And then what I normally do after that is then I expand it out to just the people in the neighborhood, the people in the city, people in the country, and I usually use the imagery of light. So imagine they can have this golden light that eventually envelops the whole planet. So this sense of love and compassion for the whole planet. And then once you've built up this sense of warmth and love and compassion, then bring it to the self because of people find that bit the hardest quite often. So then you invite them to send that golden light of loving kindness into their own heart. And so there's some self-compassion there. Someone is saying, I think it can really change your attitude to others and help you to be more patient with people. Yeah, I totally agree. So you practice it within yourself, and then that can actually have a great impact, positive impact in society. I agree with you. It's one of the things that meditation mindfulness is all about, right? It's not just for our cushions or our floor, wherever we practice. It's nice if it can spread out, and it always will. But I think loving kindness is a particularly good one for that. What other tips do I have here? Yeah, this is a good one, which is once you become experienced at this meditation, you can even practice it while walking. However, remember to keep your eyes open, otherwise you'll mindfully bump into something. That's my attempt at a joke. And then there's quite a few difficulties and challenges that come up in metta meditation. So I've got a list of 5 or 6 here. You probably can't read them, so I'll read them out very briefly. First one is that you can't think of a specific person. So if you can't think of a friend, as I said earlier, it doesn't have to be a person. It could be a plant or an animal. If you really can't think of someone, you can come back to it later. You can have a bit of a reflection and come back to it. Another common obstacle is that you say the phrases, but you don't actually feel anything, which is particularly normal, I say here. It's perfectly normal, especially when you start. Imagine the phrases coming out of your chest or heart rather than your head. Again, the feeling isn't as important as your attitude of friendliness in the actual practice itself. So that's an important tip. Third thing is that you may find that your mind keeps wandering off. And don't worry, as I've said many times, that's the nature of the mind. With practice, it may wander off less, and some days it may wander off less than others. So no worries too much about that. The next obstacle is that you have great trouble with the difficult person. So remember, I said that in the traditional way that most teachers teach this loving kindness, you go towards a neutral person, a difficult person, and that might bring up so many challenges. So I would say, especially for beginners, and even if you're experienced, focus on the other ones first, and then bring the difficult person to mind later on. And another thing, and finally, this is not an obstacle, but people think it may be an obstacle or a mistake as they find that they are having a lot of difficult emotions coming up. So rather than having loving kindness and warmth in their heart, they may find that they are feeling sad or angry or frustrated. Um, and this is actually a part of the experience for many people. You may just feel very emotional. It's a common reaction, I say here. You may not be used to generating feelings in this way, and it can unlock deep-seated emotions. So I see it as a really positive thing. If you can, try to continue with the practice. If your emotions become overwhelming, just try the first phrase and send metta towards yourself, which means loving kindness towards yourself. Doing just one phrase for a whole meditation is perfectly fine. Just you could just say, may I be well. And I haven't said this here, but some people find it helpful if they put their hand on their heart, for example. Where's the heart? I think it's here. So that could be a good one too. So there's some tips on the metta meditations. As I said, there's lots of people have written books and articles on it. But if you happen to have the latest Mindfulness for Dummies book, then it's on page 127, or even in the previous editions, it's in there too. So I hope you found that useful. So this was part of me going through the different values every day this month, because I think it's Values Month. There's certainly Values Day coming up mid-October. And so today's one was about love. And so I thought I'd talk about loving kindness. Oh, cool. We've got some nice sharing here from Brun. Brun says, I actually left a group because if there was someone there that was a bully towards me. Oh, that's horrible. I took some time away and added that person to my metta meditation. Wow. I went back after 6 weeks of the practice and discovered that person no longer annoyed me. And when they bullied, instead of getting upset, I quietly called their bully out and walked away. They hated my new attitude. And when they weren't getting the feedback they wanted, they stopped the bullying. Wow, that is really powerful. That's a very meta way of overcoming it. Well done, Bron. That's wonderful. Thanks for sharing it as well, because it may give strength for others uh, to deal with bullying potentially that way. It reminds me of a story. Let's finish with a story. This is a story that I remember Ajahn Brahm sharing, and it was to do with the local prison that they used to work at. And at this local prison, there was one prison guard this is a true story. He was really, really nasty, like very, very negative, very harsh, used to punish these prisoners at the slightest mistake that they made. And everybody hated this prison guard. And he didn't feel like he had that even an ounce of friendliness or kindness within him. Very miserable, very angry. And this Buddhist teacher, Ajahn Brahm, said, the most powerful way to transform someone is through metta, loving kindness. So I guarantee you that if you're friendly and kind towards him, eventually he'll change. And they were like, no, 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 it's impossible. He said, okay, let's do a challenge. Let's just try it. Let's see what happens. Let's do it as an experiment. So they thought, okay, that's a good idea. Let's do that. Um, and so they did this. One of the prisoners was kind of serving this guard, and he made him a really nice, tasty sandwich and his favorite kind of coffee or something, and gave it to him the first day. And this guy was just very, very annoyed with him, and he didn't smile or anything. And the guy just did it again. Had to keep doing it day after day after day. And as you'd imagine, it took a long time, it took months and months and months, but eventually he started to express a tiny bit of gratitude and a little bit of friendliness. And eventually, over the long term, he started to completely transform, because of no matter how horrible he was to them, they kept responding with the compassion and kindness. I'm not saying that's going to always work personally. You just never know. But in that case, it was nice that it worked. There was some transformation that took place. Uh, so you never know. Who knows what's the exact best attitude for each situation? But if you can do it as an experiment, if you're not getting hurt, and you can do that kind of compassion experiment on someone, I think that's a really cool experiment to do. But don't tell them you're experimenting on them. Just be really nice to them. I'm sure they'll appreciate it. Right. Well, thanks a lot for listening in, and let me know any other insights, or if you like practicing loving kindness meditation, or which is your favorite guided loving kindness meditation. Maybe there's a particular version that you like. That would be great too. Right. I've been talking a lot. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Bye for now.